Welcome to Ordnance Wargaming. Today I'm going to show you how to make these craters so that you can have a more varied battlefield. Subscribers, welcome back. If this is your first time here at Ordnance Wargaming and you want to improve your wargaming, make your tabletop battles more epic, then be sure to smash the subscribe button, ding the bell and launch a nuke to make sure that you never miss a video. Now let's get into what you need to make this piece of terrain. So here's what you need to make this crater. First of all, you need some foam to build up the walls of your crater with. If you have some offcuts, use them as they're perfect for this type of terrain. You need a knife to cut it up with. You need some glue to stick your foam to your base with. You need a brush for glue so that you don't ruin your good brushes. You need some paints, whatever colors you have and that you want to color yours up with. I'd recommend a larger brush so that you can speed up the process. You need something to texture your crater with. I've just got my black sand here. You also need your PVA and water mix just to seal everything at the end. And finally, and absolutely necessary, is you need something to put down as a base that you're going to build up the crater from. I've got some 3mm MDF here, but you can use plasticard, whatever you like. Okay, so the first step to make the crater is that you need a base to build up your crater from. So I'm just going to take my MDF and I've marked out a nice line here, and you just score along your line. Start cutting through your MDF, and you just keep tracing along that same score mark till you cut through. Or if you have a saw or something, you cut it out so that you have a base about yay big to build your crater up from. Okay, so once you've got your base cut out, the next thing you do is you start building it up. So to do this, we take our foam and we just slice it into small sections, about yay size, and you cut out a whole bunch of them, and then you carve them into rocks about the size that you want to start building up your edges. So to shape the rocks, you take your knife and you just sink it into your little bits of offcut of foam, and you just start tearing at it, because when this stuff tears, it looks remarkably like rock once it's painted up and comes out pretty good. And you try to make it so that one side of it has a shallower slope than the other, like so. And that will form the out a bit so that it sort of comes up and then drops into the crater. So once you've got enough rocks cut out and shaped to form a nice little ring on your base, you need to stick them down. And to do that, we simply take our glue as usual and we just put a ring or so on the base and spread the glue out. Once you've got the glue down, you just take your bits of rock back in and you stick them down, trying to get as neat of a ring as possible with the bit that slopes shallower facing outward. So once you've got the rock stuck down, you get some more glue and you start dumping a bit of glue into each of the little gaps around the edge. And in those gaps, we're going to put our little offcuts from shaping the rocks, and you also want to put some on the inside where you've got steeper sections, because we want it to slope in as well. And you just glue it around and then you fill it in with your little offcuts. We're going to take the offcuts from when we shape the rocks and we're just going to stick them into the gaps where we can, just to try to fill them up. Bam! So now I've finished filling in all of the little gaps, and I've also base coated it, as you can see. The trick to getting this to look nice and convincing is to make sure that the little rocks that you stick in between the larger rocks are as random as possible, and none of them look square if you can help it. So the next step is, wait for it, we're going to be adding grey. What a surprise! That's just because that's the colours of my board. Once I texture the other side of the board and have a different coloured rock that I can use, then I'll start painting rocks a different colour. But until then, we're making them black and grey. So as usual, you just take your grey paint and you get as much off the brush as possible, and you just lightly brush over the rocks like so, being sure to catch all the angles. Now that the grey has all dried, the next step and the last step of this is to apply the sand. If yours is like mine and it's very grey, you might want to add some crystals if you've made some of those, or if you have some bits out of your bits box, just to add a bit more colour to it. These I'll probably add to another one that I've made, as I've made a couple of them this afternoon. But this one, there's not really enough space for them on it, so we're just going to stick to the basics. And now we need to apply the glue so that we can put our texturing sand on it, just to make it blend into the table a bit better. So as usual, you just smash your glue around it everywhere. I'm going to put a tiny bit in the crater here and there, leaving some bits exposed and some not. As you're putting your glue on and you're spreading it out, you want it to go up the rocks a little bit, around the outside and on the inside as well. But you don't want it to go too far up them, because the sand's not going to stick to a vertical slope in reality, so try to avoid having it do that on your piece of terrain, obviously. If you do get glue on the vertical bits, then all you have to do is just get your finger, it's a little bit messy, just try to rub it off as much as you can so that it doesn't stick. And in some of the gaps in here, where we haven't quite filled it in completely, we do want a bit of sand in there, so you want to just get a tiny bit of glue in there as well. The general idea is you just want to get glue anywhere that it looks like any sand would naturally accumulate, just to add to the realism a little bit. Okay, once you've got your glue set up and you've got it in all the spots that you want to have it, as usual, you just take your material and you just sprinkle it over the entire thing, covering it all up quite nicely. And then once you've got it all covered, you take your knife and just slip it in under the base just to lift it up. Get it lifted up and you shake the excess off. Like so, and you're left with something like that. And anywhere on the rocks where there's sand that you don't want it, you can just wipe it off at this point. Like these vertical slopes in here, definitely want to get rid of the sand in there. You can even get your brush, which you use to apply your glue, if it's still a bit wet from washing it off, and you can just use it to just brush over the tops of all of your rocks, just to take any excess off that you don't want there. And then of course, you put any sand that you didn't use back in your bucket to save it for later. Bam! And how good does that look? It's all finished now. The last thing that we need to do, just to make sure that the sand doesn't come off as usual, is to just cover it in our PVA and water in our spray bottle, just to soak it down and grab any sand that's loose and stick it down. And then once you've got it all drenched down, you stick it somewhere to dry where you're not going to cover anything important in glue, as quite a bit of it will drip off. And you leave it, and once it's set, it's ready to use. So there you go, that's how you make yourself some nice cheap craters to add a nice dynamic feel to your tabletop and make your battles more interesting. If you found this video helpful, please slam the like button so that we know that you guys like this sort of thing, so that we can make stuff that you guys like for you. And if you have any ideas for some terrain you'd love to see us make, then please let us know in the comment section below so we can see if we can make that happen for you.
If you want to improve your wargaming, make your tabletop experience more epic, then be sure to smash the subscribe button, ding the bell to launch a nuke, and make sure that you never miss out on a video. Until next time.